name is Anna, and I am absolutely honored to be able to have given the opportunity to share the stage with inspiring women in the world. Sustainability is a concept that was born in the 80s, and it's literally how you can meet the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations. The three pillars of sustainability are economic, environmental, and people, even though, from my point of view, environmental and people are one and the same. Because you need a healthy ecosystem to survive. The ecosystem does not necessarily need you to survive. It just transforms. But to build a bolder, more sustainable livelihoods, one needs to be brave. One needs to think long term. But one can't be brave if one is hungry, if one is tired, and if one is insecure financially. So sustainability and financial inclusion are one and the same. And yet, 80% of women hold back on talking about their finances with family, friends, and even business partners. So I want to change that percentage today and start talking about financial inclusion. I'm welcoming Teresa Noorlander to the stage, please. Sustainability Director Europe for Coca-Cola Company. And I'm going to call you all because it looks a bit sad to see you standing there. So please just join at the same time. Chantal Korteweg, Manager of Strategy of FMO, Dutch Development Bank. And as you already know, Adwa Kwofor, Regional Advisor for Gender and Human Rights. Thank you for being here. So we are starting with Teresa. I believe you have a presentation for us.
Yeah, let me see if this one is on. Is this one on? Yeah, it's working. Okay. Yeah, as I was asked to just share both a professional and a personal story. So let me start with the personal. As in our world, we tend to start with the professional, but I thought I'd do it the other way around, as it's a great pleasure to be here. So a little bit about me. I'm Teresa. I am Danish of nationality, but I live here in the Netherlands. And I have a great husband who's very supportive of everything I want to thrive for and want to do, also enabling me to have a great job within the Coca-Cola Company. I have a 6-year-old son who is very supportive, but also grows up in a world where he sees a lot of moms standing at the school at 3 o'clock. So not always understands that I'm traveling because I'm covering all of Europe. So inclusivity, and I also like the example heard earlier today, is something that is actually happening in my home every day, needing to explain where I am or why I might not be at school at 3 o'clock. So that's a little bit about me. I don't have a clicker, so somebody needs to flip the slides for me. Thanks. A little bit about how I ended up at working for Coca-Cola and also being very inspired to talk about sustainability and inclusivity, so social sustainability is part of that for us. I studied business administration at Erasmus University in Rotterdam, close to here. And then I started working in private sector. And then at some point I jumped into the public sector. So I worked for the Dutch Ministry of Health, which enabled me to have a look at the other side. And in the end, I decided to go work for Coca-Cola, again, to the private sector. And a lot of people ask me, why are you turning to the dark side? And for me, it was a very deliberate choice because I believe, and still do, that Coca-Cola is an amplifier of positive change. And when it comes to sustainability and social sustainability, they have shown that it's in their DNA, and it's really a very powerful company, not only through the brands that they have, but also through the values that they carry. And I'll give you a couple of examples about that. We have a program, it's called 5 by 20. It's an ambition where we say we want to move and support 5 million female entrepreneurs in 2020. And I've never seen a big company having a global commitment like this. Currently, so we started our journey a couple of years ago, and currently we're at 3.2 million females. And we know that around 75% of these females, they are part of a bigger value chain in terms of entrepreneurs. So they were supported and taught to grow their own business. And the important thing for me was to see that this is not only happening, for example, in Africa, but also in Europe. And there's still so much to do. So it's great to work for a company that throws out these big commitments, saying 5 million females by 2020, and then actually starts to move itself towards that, and with all the partners that we have across the world. So that's one of the great things, and being able to work with that and support females in all our markets. Another thing that I feel proud of, and I think it's important to share, also reading the news today where it said a lot about female leadership in companies, is that we were the first company to have a female on our board in 1934. Currently we have 4 out of 13. And we've set targets and goals in Western Europe to have at least 40% of middle management and above to be female. And most of the times I do have a discussion with males as well, saying, well, do you really want to be chosen because you're a female? And I'm at the point saying, yeah, I don't mind, because I think it's a good development, and it pushes the conversation. And for sure, this is a starting point, and it doesn't end with only female inclusion. It's about full gender and diversity inclusion. So, but I think it's one of those points. If you don't get it out there, it doesn't start. And it makes me proud to work for a company that actually throws itself again into these kind of discussions and debates. We were also the first company to have an African American woman in our advertising. So this very much links to the brands and what you can do being a consumer marketing company. So that's great to really see that we were innovative in doing that, and really feeling that this is an important thing, because that reflects the society. It's not a reflection of society if you only use males. And this also connects to further inclusion and diversity topics. Our brands have been advocating, for example, for gay rights and for Special Olympics, for example, for other people as well, part of our all-inclusive society. So that's great. And it connects to the slide up here, what makes you tick. So what makes you tick as a person, what gets me out of bed every morning, despite a 6-year-old jumping up and down, but also what's in your DNA as a company, what are your values, and are you willing to advocate for that? And so for me as a person, I want to make a difference. And so working for a company that can make a difference because of its scale and an impact and great brands, but it starts with values and DNA that are at the heart of making that difference, and how you do that. Next slide, please. And I was asked to share a couple of insights or learnings with you. So again, this is a personal note. But I think it's very important that throughout my career so far, I've asked for help. I wasn't shy of saying, I don't know, I think it's difficult to be a mom and a friend and a wife and a daughter and myself and a professional. I've asked for help many times, and that can be over a drink, talking to another female or a male, asking how he or she is managing, but also professional coaching help. So my advice to young females would actually be, and to all females, but especially the younger ones, I think, don't shy away of asking for help. And the one thing that I've experienced so far is that a lot of females, they don't tend to talk about what the cost is of having, for example, a great job and not being at home or not being at school at 3 o'clock. So that would be my ask to all of you. Please share those stories, because they are true stories, and they're not the dark side. It's just the flip side of some of the choices we make. And I think it's good that specifically younger generations, they are aware of this, because otherwise they grow up with a picture perfect and they want to do everything perfect, and sometimes it's just not. So let's be very honest and candid about that. And be gentle with yourself. I mean, it's a journey. I've learned, I have cuts and bruises all over, but it's just part of it. And when I talk to females and female entrepreneurs, part of our program, you hear that too. So I think it's be gentle, understand that this is all in development. It's a development for yourself, and continue to have fun along the way, because it is. So we need to remember to keep on smiling even when things are rough and tough, and also allow others to then breathe and have a smile at what's happening, because if things are over serious, then it also makes it a little bit more difficult to develop. So I guess that's about it, and I just wanted to leave you with an inspiring quote. I keep on reminding myself, it's also one of the reasons why I happily accepted to be here today. I think all females, but also men, we shouldn't forget how we got here. And so if we are developing, we should always look over our shoulder and see how we can help to develop others. And so starting with women, I would say. That's it. Thank you.
I have a bit of goosebumps. And I think you too got, because one thing about being a female entrepreneur or otherwise in trying to empower ours is this transparency, to actually open the doors of what it takes to go and grab what you want. It's fight, cuts and bruises, as you said, and then there's the flip side. There's the children that don't get to see their mother at 3 o'clock of the school, but make really funny YouTube videos because they're so proud of their mom doing that, for example. So I was going to hijack your Michelle Obama question, but I think you've already answered it. But so you should always have 3 friends, one that walks ahead, one that walks with you, and then one that you reach back and bring back. And you've touched very well the last one, but in your personal journey, how did you find that first one to look up and the first one to walk with you?
Oh, that's a very beautiful question. Might get me emotional, I feel. So I would say the friend who is walking with me is my husband, because I can't do this without him, to be very, very honest. See, it gets me emotional.
Not me.
And actually, I think it's the people looking up to. So it's both people like Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey. I mean, when I was a little girl, I was looking at her and thinking, wow, what a powerhouse. So I think there have been many women that I've looked up to, but actually the most funniest story is that why I got a couple of the jobs that helped me up here was because of men. Was because of men thinking all-inclusive and allowing me to develop myself and embracing diversity. So actually, the funny thing is I've had a couple of roadblocks built by women for me, And it was actually males enabling me to jump over them or to take them away from me. And again, including my husband, because so very personally, I couldn't do this without his great support. So yeah, we should also acknowledge the males and the males who are open, who are so supportive. So yeah.
Thank you. Chantal. Chantal, welcome. Chantal is the manager strategy of FMO, the Dutch Development Bank, and has been involved in a initiative that is very close to my heart, FemPower. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to hearing your story and your personal take on it.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So my name is Chantal. I'm 40 years old. I live in Zoeterwoude, not that far away, with my husband and my 2 kids. They are 7 and 5. I work for FMO. So have you heard of FMO? Should I explain a little bit about it? So it's just down the road. 700 people in an office just down the road, 5 minutes on the bike. And we are the Dutch Development Bank. So we invest in 85 emerging markets. We provide loans or we take equity stakes in banks and companies. And we're active in the financial sector, food and agriculture, and renewable energy. I've been with FMO for 11 years. I got many opportunities to move around. I was originally trained as an attorney, and I joined the legal side of FMO. And I've had many opportunities, and actually I just became a director of the strategy and stakeholder department of FMO. And during my during my journey, I think I've always been passionate about female leadership and providing access to finance for female entrepreneurs in our markets. So I set up our female network at FMO. I help design our gender finance strategy for the financial sector. I'm an advisory board member on the Women Entrepreneur Debt Fund, the fund we set up with Goldman Sachs and the IFC. Last year I organized a conference at the KIT, the Royal Tropical Institute in Amsterdam, actually for our clients from emerging markets to... and the title of the conference was How to Make Finance Work for Female Entrepreneurs. So we had about 300 delegates from all over the world. And I just sat there in the preparation thinking about being Dutch and living here in the Netherlands and wondering what on earth the Dutch financial sector was doing for female entrepreneurs. And it just went totally silent. Everyone I asked about this and so they looked at me like, what's the problem? And I just had this really strong gut feeling that this is not an emerging market problem, this is a global issue. So I thought, well, I have the Queen coming in doing a keynote, so wouldn't it be a nice surprise that I organize a workshop for kind of high-up management of ABN AMRO, Rabobank, Triodos and ING. I invited my friend, talking about friends, from RBS, NatWest, who in England have developed a really impressive program for female entrepreneurs to be ahead of the argument, that's an emerging markets problem. So we did this workshop. I didn't really tell them that the Queen would attend, so there was this nice surprise where we had a closed-door session with 15 Dutch bankers. I told them my story about emerging markets and all the programs FMO does to empower female leadership. We did a couple of female leadership journeys in Ghana and Zambia. And what we do to really focus on lending money to female entrepreneurs. And then I gave my friend from NatWest the floor. And then I said, so, well, and what are you doing here in the Netherlands? And the Queen was there, and it just was totally silent. So that was the start of a really difficult journey. It was called, we called ourselves the FemNL group. So a group of Dutch bankers. And we worked for a year and a half to make this program, Fempower Your Growth, happen. So it died like 5 times along the way. So, you know, just reminding ourselves of the lessons you put on the slide. It was really difficult. So coming together with the Dutch financial sector, with different banks, I think is difficult in itself because these all are competitors. So I kept saying, no, this is a pre-competitive sector initiative. We do many sector initiatives in Honduras and in Nigeria, so we have some experience with that. That was all very new to them. And then they said, yeah, okay, nice. So my idea was, okay, we do a program for bankers and female entrepreneurs. So everyone in one program. Why? Because the bankers have at least as much to learn from the female entrepreneurs as vice versa. Well, that was a very strange thought in the first place, right? Because the bankers would be there to teach the female entrepreneurs how to get access to finance, how to improve their pitch, you know, how not to say the silly things. So I think it took a couple of months before we kind of got the message across that actually there's a lot of unconscious bias going on with these bankers who need to be trained to do this. Then they said, well, okay, well, we're going to do the program, 30 bankers, 30 female entrepreneurs, but only the female entrepreneurs who have €1 million turnover, because otherwise it's not so interesting for us. So I said, well, yeah, no, well, yeah, let's call it a day. That's fine. We're just going our own way, but we're not going to do a program for only female entrepreneurs with $1 million or more turnover. They will find their way to a banker. I'm interested in the group who's like around 200, 300, 400K and who need actually access to network, a mentor, a coach, a banker, etc., etc. So the title of the first edition was also Close the Gap, which I felt was ridiculous because it was just so negative, right? So the whole thing kind of, they pitched this and they tried to get participants and no one applied. Yeah, well, understood. So we kind of had this session in February and thought we would rethink it. We invited female entrepreneurs to validate the ideas. And then we kind of, you know, let go of the stupid criteria about the 1 million. So it was open for female entrepreneurs with growth ambitions. We renamed the program. It's called Fempower Your Growth. And we did, I think, a really nice 5-day course with bankers and entrepreneurs in the same program. It was financial masterclasses, strategy, coaching, mentoring. And we closed off last week with the Queen. There she was again. So she came to FMO and she kind of kept involved in the background. And she was great, as she is. And such an ambassador on this topic, and it's interesting actually to see how the royals can really serve as a carrot. Strangely enough, because I had her kind of behind the scene, saying, "Guys, you know, the Queen is asking, or ladies, the Queen is asking how we are progressing. She'll come, but we have to make this work." So we closed off this great session with her, and she was, you know, she is powerful. She kind of came in and asked my CEO, so what's next? Nice, this pilot program, and now what? So we had the CEO, Kees van Dijkhuizen of ABN AMRO there, and she just asked him, like, so how are you going to roll out and scale up this program? So I was like, oh, I was just so happy. I was like doing this all the time. So anyway, I'll pause here.
What was its answer?
Well, you know, if Queen Maxima asks you, then all these men will say, no, of course we're going to continue. Yes, we'll scale up. Oh, can we come to the palace to explain our proposal? Oh, that's nice. So she's smart.
We should expect some Fempower program for females that have not yet reached 300K.
Absolutely. So if you are a female entrepreneur here and you would like to participate in the next edition, come see me or connect on LinkedIn and I'll make sure that you are connected to our network.
Thank you, Chantal. This is very inspiring. And I was going to ask you about the commonalities between Europe and emerging markets, but they're pretty much answered. So we are gonna continue with Adwa before we hand over to some questions, because I see some eager faces already.
Thank you. I don't know how to quite follow up on this amazing story and what's happening in Netherlands. I was really going to, and I know that women sometimes I don't really see myself as a leader, but I know sometimes we also have the issue of recognizing where we are and giving value to our contribution. But I don't think I have much to add. What I do want to add, though, is from the perspective of being, of diversity, of being female and being African, and working in such an environment as the United Nations, and what my experience has been. And I've been with the UN for 12 years. And of course, the UN are made up of different departments. There are more representation in different departments than others. And in the human rights, you don't get much diversity with this, the idea that human rights are a Western concept that is being, especially when it comes to gender equality. And when you talk about women's rights, that is being imposed on the developing countries, by developed countries, and then they also have issues. So you have a lot of challenges being female and going into these forums and being African and speaking to African leaders about the importance of changing laws or making sure women are in spaces that are traditionally reserved for men. So I'll give an example. We have this African Commission, which is very similar to the European Commission, and they look at the human rights records of different member states. So, of course, then you go in and you say, okay, in the Gambia, there are these cases of FGM, for example, or how many women are dying in seeking abortion and not receiving post-abortion care, for instance. So you do the presentation in front of member states. And, of course, after, they're looking for you. Because first and foremost, why are you an African woman telling us this? You know the challenges we are facing. So we do the presentation, and then somebody else will come. And when you talked about who walks behind you and who walks with you and who walks ahead with you, I have a very good one who walks ahead of me called Hannah Foster. And she's Gambian, and she gave me this tip. And she said, Ajwa, always carry a wig with you. So as soon as you finish making the statement, while you're waiting for the next speaker, you go and you put the wig on. And when you come back, they will not recognize you. They will be looking in the room for that small girl who was talking about the situation of their human rights in their country and embarrassing them, and they cannot find you. And that is the best tip I've ever had. So I always carry a wig with me. So I'll stand in front of them and I'll say the human rights situation in your country is this and that. And then it's really, you have signed up to these human rights treaties and these conventions, and we are seeing that you are just not implementing. There's a lot of talk, no action. And then they see, and then I'll leave. And then during the interactive dialogue, I'll come back with my wig and I'm sitting there. And you can see they want to have a word with you. And they're men. They're always men, inevitably. All the delegation of most of the countries from the global south are made up of men. And this is where we are also working to encourage them to make sure there are women in the delegation. So this is what I wanted to add to what has already been said.
Thank you, Adwa. I had never heard about that wig tip, but now where do I get a wig? So thank you all very much. And this takes me back to where I started, that for one to be bold and for one to be sustainable, one has to first and foremost meet their basic needs. And that is definitely human rights. So you were the last, but you are the beginning of the building blocks of sustainability and inclusion, financial inclusion for women. Then we have this amazing story of career and empowerment within the family and outside the family, to find the structures that actually help you achieve what you already know you have inside you. And the money. I swear to God, I'm listening to ABBA in my mind now, aren't you all? We need the money. We need the money. We need the money to feel safe. We need the money to invest. And we need the money to propel us and others. So, please, where are the questions?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Eleanor, and I am a social scientist, a researcher on gender, and I'm also a leadership trainer and speaker. And I actually don't really have a question, but more than anything else, I have a comment. And I want to say congratulations to this panel, because from yesterday and so far this morning, I have to say that you ladies have really been the ones to especially inspire me. Because what you did was, I think this conversation is almost full circle in terms of why all of us are here today. So I want to start off with something that Ajwa shared, which then comes back to what you shared, Therese, and then also comes back to the money, which is that, you know, the work that we do and the reason why we have these conversations about gender and women's empowerment is precisely because, like Ajwa was sharing, they impact the realities of our lives. When we have laws and when we have institutions that actually support the empowerment of women, then we can actually live this full experiences. And what Therese was saying, right? We're going to actually be able to fully embody who we are, embody our purpose, be able to raise the kinds of families that we want to. But when we don't have, at the very basic level, access to human rights and the possibility for us to have certain types of conversations and to be able to walk in a certain level of protection by the law, it's impossible for us to have the reality of a full and happy and good life. And Therese, I really loved everything that you shared, and I also especially thank you for allowing us to see you in such a vulnerable space, because one of the things that I've seen in my work as a trainer, especially on the African continent, is the necessity for us to have safe spaces as women where we can talk about the challenges that we actually face in these leadership roles that we're in. I think that sometimes it's so easy to have these kinds of leadership spaces and forums where we talk about what we need to do, the things that we need to embody, the kind of leadership that we need to have. But when on our daily experiences, like going back to the women on the African continent that Ajwa was talking about, when you see the reality of the laws not protecting you, or the governance systems not enabling you to be able to find money to work on your enterprises, you then really begin to feel like, oh my God, like what am I supposed to do and who am I in this world? But then you sharing that shows us that whether you're talking about African women, whether you're talking about American women, whether you're talking about European women, our experiences are so similar in that we need safe spaces to actually talk about the things that we experience and how we can overcome them and actually have supportive networks, supportive husbands, supportive friends, and so on and so forth. So I just want to thank you ladies so much for allowing us to kind of be a part of your experiences and learn from them.
Thank you. Okay, we have time for 2 questions. I've allocated one over here. Stick your hand up on the other side now if you want me to call on you so I can keep an eye on who needs over there. One here, yeah, to Jennifer, and then the lady in the orange. I'm sorry we don't have time for more questions. Must end with a question mark.
Yes.
Rules.
Yes. My question is actually to bring it back to the Netherlands, because is actually, I think, is Chantal, or from the MasterCard presentation. From the MasterCard presentation, something really stuck with me, and it actually came back when we were talking about Coca-Cola, specifically here in the Netherlands, because I think a female entrepreneur situation looks a bit different, maybe. So my question is, I'm a female entrepreneur, but I sell things like presentations and services. I buy Coca-Cola, I buy Unilever. So what's happening here as far as working with the Dutch banks and the local banks? I know that Chantal mentioned specifically with FMO, so that was a huge, great information to share, but I was wondering specifically, maybe from Coca-Cola's perspective, what you're doing. Do you work with the banks to do 0% loans for female entrepreneurs, for instance? That's my question.
Not sure. Yeah, it's on now. So to answer your question, no, we're not working in the Netherlands with the banks. What we're doing here after we did an assessment is to work with young kids, so both male and female, to help work and support their young entrepreneur skills. So we work with a big organization called Jong Ondernemen, very close to here. And we have been a big corporate sponsor for a couple of years for now. And we work together with women in specific areas. For example, you would know in Rotterdam-Zuid, that could really help some additional support. We network with them. We invite them to our offices. We give job trainings and those kind of things. So that's what we do here in the Netherlands in terms of female leadership and entrepreneurship support, but not in a financial way, so with banks. In other countries, we do.
Thank you. Thank you. Chantal, you had something short to
I'll
add.
keep it really brief, but I feel the need to acknowledge the men in this room. So thank you for being here. It's really important that when we do this conference again, there are more men in the room. Yes. We will not solve all these challenges without including them in the conversation. So thanks for being here and keep up the good work. We need you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for...
Time for just one more question.
Good morning. My name is Daria. I wanted to thank you. I thought it was really inspiring. And I wanted to share an idea. I was wondering, what about women investing in women? Because it seems that we have 80% of consumer decisions are made by women. That's a lot of power we have. Also, it seems women entrepreneurs have difficulties accessing funds. We've just talked about this. What about if we support each other, if we choose strategic sisterhood and we try to invent or establish systems, how we can invest in each other, how we can choose to invest our pension fund. I don't know, just some ideas to think about. I know there's some discussion going on. I believe in the United States, they're looking at possibilities to choose to invest in women-owned businesses. It's very difficult. I'm not aware of anything like this in Europe. I would love to hear something about it. Is this possible? Does it exist? Thank you.
Who wants to answer?
Well, I mean, I like the idea. So both as a person and a professional, I wouldn't know. So to answer, I haven't heard about it, but that says probably more about me than the idea. So maybe it's valuable to have a look. Do you know?
Yeah, I do think that in the Netherlands there is an initiative like this. I went blank on the name, but let's find out. It's an excellent idea, of course.
There is an initiative like this, more on the venture capital level, where it's maybe a month old. It's very young, and it starts now circulating on the LinkedIn. I can put it later on the Rise and Lead, where venture capitalists got together to massively increase the amount of venture capitalism investment going towards women-owned businesses. Of course, we need it at all levels, but this one already exists. I will put it later on the Rise and Lead things. Thank you all, crowd, speakers. This was welcoming inspiring.